Welcome to another confession from the wasteland, another warning that no one will probably heed. This is the story of what would have happened if the Master's unity had succeeded, if every human in the wasteland had been dipped in FEV and transformed into super mutants, if we'd achieved the perfect unified civilization the Master envisioned. This video covers the greatest tragedy you've never heard about, the slow realization that salvation and extinction can wear the same face. You're about to hear something most people don't want to think about, that sometimes the people trying to save the world are the most dangerous ones in it, that good intentions and brilliant plans can lead straight to oblivion if you forget to check whether your perfect species can actually survive past the first generation. The Master created peace by creating a species that couldn't continue. He unified humanity by erasing its future, and thousands of super mutants, including me, walked willingly into that extinction because the promise was too beautiful to question. And if you genuinely enjoy this kind of dark storytelling, consider subscribing and liking the channel, but only if it truly resonates with you. I'm not here for numbers. I'm here because someone needs to remember what almost happened, what could still happen if we're not careful. Because the wasteland is full of people who think they've found the answer, who believe their vision is worth any cost, who promise perfection and deliver extinction. This is my testimony, my warning, my confession. Welcome to the unity. Welcome to the end. My name doesn't matter anymore. Names are things humans needed to separate themselves from each other, to mark territory, to claim ownership of thoughts and bodies that were always meant to be temporary. I was dipped in 2158. I remember the date because I carved it into my arm during the first month, when I still thought dates mattered, when I still thought there would be someone left to remember them. You're listening to this because you found one of the old holotapes we scattered across the wasteland. Maybe you're curious. Maybe you think this is ancient history, a cautionary tale from before the world learned its lesson. But you need to understand something. The Master won, not in the way the history books tell it, if there even are history books where you are. He won because he got exactly what he wanted. He unified humanity. He ended war. He created peace. He just didn't realize peace and extinction would turn out to be the same thing. I was 23 when they took me. Vault 15, western edge of what used to be California. Our door had been malfunctioning for months, the seal weakening, and we knew it was only a matter of time. The overseer kept telling us we were safe, that the vault would protect us, that the outside world was full of dangers we couldn't imagine. He was right about that last part at least, but he was wrong about the vault keeping us safe. Safety was never really the point of vaults, was it? They were experiments, all of them. And ours? Ours was just a breeding pen waiting to be harvested. They came at night. I still remember that detail, even though night and day don't mean much to me anymore. Super mutants don't sleep the way humans do. We rest sometimes, but it's different. It's like your body forgets it needs to shut down. Like the FEV rewires you so thoroughly that even exhaustion becomes optional. But I remember that night because it was the last time I would ever truly be afraid of the dark. The vault door, already weakened, barely slowed them down. The sound of it being ripped open was like the world itself splitting in half. Metal screaming, people screaming, my mother screaming. I was in the recreation area when it happened, playing cards with my friend Marcus. Not the Marcus, the one who went on to found Broken Hills. Different Marcus. Mine died 3 minutes after they grabbed him. Wrong blood type or too much radiation or just bad luck. The FEV doesn't care about your story. It just rewrites you. And sometimes the rewrite is fatal. The super mutants who came through that door were massive. Green skins stretched tight over muscles that looked carved from stone. Some wore armor cobbled together from pre-war military gear. Others wore nothing but cloth wrappings and the confidence of beings who knew they were apex predators. They moved with purpose, not rage. That's what I remember most. There was no hate in what they did. They were farmers harvesting crops. We were wheat. They separated us immediately. The old, the sick, the heavily irradiated. They were put in one group and led away. I never saw them again, but I learned later what happened to them. The Master had a protocol. Those who couldn't survive the transformation were given two choices: sterilization and exile, or a quick death. Most chose death. The wasteland isn't kind to the weak, and sterilization meant your genetic line ended with you. Some people, even at the end, cling to the idea that their children might somehow make things better. That legacy matters. The Master understood that about humans. He just thought he could offer them a better kind of legacy. The rest of us, the young and relatively clean, we were the chosen ones. That's what they called us, the chosen. Like we'd won some kind of lottery. like we should be grateful. And the strangest part? Some people were. I watched Overseer's daughter, Sarah, walk toward the mutants with her arms outstretched, tears streaming down her face, thanking them. She'd been listening to the Children of the Cathedral broadcasts. She believed. She thought the unity was salvation. Maybe she was right. I still don't know. They took us to Mariposa, the old military base where the Master first discovered what FEV could do. The journey took 3 days. We walked in chains, a long line of vault dwellers stumbling through a wasteland we'd never seen before. The sun was too bright. The air was too dry. Every breath felt wrong in my lungs. I kept thinking about the vault, about the filtered air and the recycled water and the safe, predictable routine of underground life. I kept thinking I could escape, run, disappear into the wasteland and somehow survive. But where would I go? Back to a vault that no longer existed? Forward into a world I didn't understand? The mutants guarding us weren't cruel, but they weren't kind either. They were patient. They'd done this before. They knew we'd realize, eventually, that we had nowhere to run to. The Mariposa base was a cathedral of concrete and steel, sunk into the earth like a tombstone, marking the grave of old America. They led us down, deep into the facility, past levels of rusted equipment and ancient computer terminals still blinking their pre-war warnings into empty rooms. The air grew thick, chemical, sweet and wrong like fruit left to rot in the sun. That was the FEV. I didn't know it then, but my body did. I could feel it in my lungs, on my skin, in the back of my throat. The virus was already starting to work on me, just from breathing the contaminated air. The dipping chamber was massive, industrial. Vats lined up in rows, each one filled with thick, luminescent fluid that glowed faint green in the dim light. FEV2, the perfected strain. The Master's gift to humanity. The walls were covered in cables and pipes, all feeding into the vats, maintaining temperature and chemical balance. This was a factory, a place of transformation. The floor was stained dark with decades of use, and I tried not to think about what those stains meant. They processed us in batches of 6. I was in the 7th group. We waited in a holding area while they prepared the others, and I could hear everything. The sounds echoed down the corridors, screaming at first, always screaming and then choking, gurgling, sounds no human throat should make, and then silence, or laughter. Sometimes they laughed when they came out. The transformation does things to your mind, rewires your emotions along with everything else. When my turn came, I tried to fight. Of course I did. Everyone fights. A nightkin held me down effortlessly, his massive hands gentle despite their strength, and wrapped me in cloth. The binding was a ritual, I realized later, something the Unity had developed. It kept you from thrashing too violently in the vats, from drowning or damaging yourself before the transformation completed. They'd learned, through trial and error, through thousands of failures, exactly how to maximize success rates. The Holy Flame himself was there that night. The Master. I saw him through the observation window before they lowered me into the vat. He wasn't what I expected. The broadcasts from the children had made him sound like a prophet, a leader, someone transcendent. And he was transcendent, but not in any way that made sense to human eyes. He was an amalgamation. Flesh merged with metal, cables running into skin, multiple faces speaking in chorus, beautiful and terrible and completely, utterly beyond the categories of human thought. He spoke to me. I don't know if it was telepathy or if his voice just carried, but I heard him as clearly as I hear the echo of his words now, decades later. He said, "You will be better. You will be perfect. You will be one." And then they dropped me into the vat. The FEV hit me like liquid fire. Every cell in my body ignited simultaneously. I tried to scream, but the fluid filled my mouth, my lungs, every cavity and opening. I was drowning and burning and being torn apart from the inside. My DNA unraveled. The double helix structure that had defined me since conception was shredded and rebuilt into something else. A quad helix, stable, perfect, incapable of natural reproduction. But that didn't matter because I wasn't thinking about reproduction. I wasn't thinking about anything except pain. Time stopped meaning anything. I might have been in that vat for 24 hours. It might have been 24 years. The virus worked through me in waves, each one rewriting another piece of what I'd been. My bones lengthened and thickened. My muscles swelled. My skin changed color, shifting from pink to gray to deep green as the melanin restructured. My internal organs reorganized, becoming more efficient, redundant systems developing to prevent catastrophic failure. And my mind expanded. I could feel it happening. Neural pathways multiplying, connections forming faster than they could be processed. I was becoming smarter, more aware. I could think in ways I'd never been able to think before. I could see patterns I'd never noticed. I could understand things that had always been mysteries. But I was also losing something. My humanity. The small, soft parts of me that had made me distinctly me were being edited out. Compassion became logical analysis. Fear became calculation. Love became an abstract concept I could understand intellectually, but no longer feel the same way. The FEV made me better, but it made me different. When they pulled me out of the vat, I was 3 meters tall and weighed over 300 kilograms. My voice had dropped several octaves. My hands could crush steel, and I was grateful. That's the part that still disturbs me when I think about it. I was genuinely, sincerely grateful. I'd been reborn. I'd been chosen. I was part of something greater than myself. I was unity. They gave me a designation. Subject 1547. We didn't use names in the unity. Names were human things, expressions of individuality that we'd moved beyond. But they gave us numbers because the master needed to track success rates, monitor development, identify which batches produced the best results. I was a good result. I'd retained my intelligence. I'd gained strength and endurance beyond human limits. I was immune to radiation and disease. I would live for centuries, maybe longer. I was perfect, except I wasn't. None of us were. But we didn't know that yet. The indoctrination came next. They didn't call it that, of course. It was education, integration, learning your place in the new world order. The lieutenant himself oversaw my training. He was magnificent. A brilliant tactical mind in a body that could tear through power armor like paper. He taught me about the Unity's mission, about the Master's vision for humanity. He showed me the data, the graphs, the projections. Before the war, humanity had been on a path towards self-destruction. Nuclear weapons, environmental collapse, resources wars. The old world ended because humans couldn't overcome their differences, couldn't stop fighting over scraps. The Master had found a solution. Make everyone the same. Remove the biological and genetic differences that fostered tribalism. Create a new species that could thrive in the post-nuclear world and never again face the conflicts that had destroyed civilization. It made sense. Perfect logical sense. And I believed it. We all believed it. The Master was saving us from ourselves. I spent my first year as a mutant working in the recruitment centers. That's what we called them. The children of the cathedral ran hospitals and shelters across New California, offering aid to wastelanders, food, medicine, clean water, safety. And once people trusted us, once they'd been helped and healed, we'd present them with a choice. Join the Unity voluntarily or be forced to join eventually. Most chose voluntarily. The promise of strength, of immunity to radiation, of centuries of life instead of decades. It was compelling. Those who refused were marked for later collection. The Master's army was growing and we needed numbers. We needed to reach critical mass before the other factions realized what was happening and tried to stop us. The Brotherhood of Steel was already suspicious. The NCR was too fragmented to pose a real threat. But there were others. Scattered vaults, hidden settlements, people who'd look at the Unity and see monsters instead of saviors. We found Vault 12, Necropolis. The ghouls there had survived nuclear radiation through a different kind of mutation, one that left them intelligent but physically deteriorating. We offered them transformation. Most refused. They saw themselves as already evolved, already adapted, so we laid siege, starved them out. And when they finally opened their doors, we gave them the same choice we gave everyone. Join or die. I was there when Set, their leader, finally surrendered. I watched him walk toward the lieutenant with his hands raised, his rotting face twisted in defeat. He asked for his people to be spared. The lieutenant agreed. They were dipped, every ghoul strong enough to survive the transformation. The ones who weren't strong enough were sterilized and released. Set himself survived the dipping. I saw him afterwards. He was green and massive and completely broken inside. His eyes were dead. He'd lost his entire identity in those vats, traded it for strength he never wanted. What do you think really happened here? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd like to know if I'm the only one who feels this way. We were efficient, we were relentless, and we were winning. By 2161, the Unity controlled most of the core region. The Master's army numbered in the thousands. We'd located dozens of vaults and were in the process of cracking them open one by one. Pure humans, uncontaminated by wasteland radiation, they produced the best results. The strongest mutants, the smartest, the ones who could lead. I became a squad leader. I led raids on caravans. I coordinated vault breaches. I was good at it. I was helping build a better world. A unified world. A world without war. And then the Vault Dweller appeared. The Vault Dweller came from Vault 13. We'd been hunting for that vault for years. The Master knew it existed. Knew it was out there somewhere in the southern wastes. But the location had been kept hidden. Vault Tech's records were incomplete. Destroyed in the war or locked behind security we couldn't crack. So we waited. We knew eventually someone would have to leave. Vaults couldn't sustain themselves forever. Water chips fail. Food recyclers break down. Someone always has to venture into the wasteland. And when they did, we'd follow them home. I wasn't part of the team that tracked the Vault Dweller. I was stationed at the cathedral by then, working security detail for Morpheus and the Inner Circle. But we heard the reports. A lone human, heavily armed, impossibly skilled, moving through our territory like a ghost, asking questions, investigating, making connections between the children and the Master. Smart. Too smart. The lieutenant wanted to capture them immediately, but the Master said no. Wait, watch, learn. The Master was always learning, always gathering data. Every interaction was an experiment. Every encounter a chance to understand humanity better. He thought he could convert the Vault Dweller. Thought anyone, given enough information, would see the logic of the unity. He was wrong. I was in the cathedral when the Vault Dweller infiltrated the lower levels. The alarm went off around midnight. Intruder in the vault sublevel, all nightkin to defensive positions. I grabbed my plasma rifle and headed down with my squad. The corridors were chaos. Smoke and laser fire and the smell of burned flesh. The Vault Dweller was cutting through us like we were nothing. I caught a glimpse of them in the hallway. Powered armor, combat shotgun, face hidden behind a visor. They moved with brutal efficiency. No hesitation, no mercy. They weren't there to negotiate. They were there to kill the Master. We tried to stop them. My entire squad, 8 super mutants, some of the best the Unity had produced. We lasted 90 seconds. The Vault Dweller was something else, something beyond human. Or maybe they were exactly what humans could be when pushed to their absolute limit. Desperate, determined, willing to sacrifice everything to save their species. They shot me in the chest. Plasma bolt, went straight through. Should have been fatal, would have been fatal to a human. But I was Unity. My redundant organs kicked in. My enhanced healing started working immediately. I stayed conscious long enough to hear the explosion. The Master died that day. The cathedral collapsed into the underground vault, burying decades of work, thousands of dipped humans, centuries of planning. The psychic feedback from his death was like a scream that echoed through every super mutant mind across California. We felt him die. We felt the Unity shatter. And we felt something else. Something the Master had been hiding from us. We were sterile, all of us. Every single super mutant the Master had created was completely, irreversibly sterile. The Vault Dweller had found proof. Medical records from the Brotherhood of Steel. Autopsy reports on captured super mutants. The FEV rewrote our DNA into a quad helix structure that made us stronger, smarter, more resistant to damage and disease. But that same structure made proper meiosis impossible. Our gametes couldn't couple correctly. Fertilization could never occur. We couldn't reproduce. Not naturally, not at all. The Master hadn't known. That's what destroyed him in the end, according to the reports I read later. The Vault Dweller confronted him with the evidence, and the Master realized he'd spent decades building a future that couldn't exist. He'd created a new species with no way to continue itself, an evolutionary dead end. His great plan to unify humanity and end all conflict was nothing more than slow-motion genocide dressed up as salvation. He activated the cathedral's self-destruct sequence himself. The Master killed himself because he couldn't live with what he'd done. And maybe that was the most human thing about him. The ability to feel shame, to recognize a mistake so fundamental that death seemed like the appropriate response. But we didn't die. The rest of us, the thousands of super mutants scattered across California, we survived, and we had to figure out what to do with a future we hadn't planned for. The Unity collapsed within weeks. Without the Master's telepathic presence holding us together, without his vision guiding us, we fractured into dozens of competing groups. Some mutants, the true believers, refused to accept the sterility diagnosis. They claimed it was Brotherhood propaganda. They insisted we just needed more time, more research, more test subjects. They continued dipping humans, trying to find a combination that would preserve fertility. They failed, every single time. Other mutants, the ones like me who'd retained enough critical thinking to see the truth, we scattered. Some went north, some went east. Some tried to integrate with human settlements, offering protection in exchange for acceptance. Those efforts had mixed results. Broken Hills became the most successful example. Marcus, the second in command of the Master's personal guard, founded it in 2185 with a brotherhood paladin named Jacob, human and mutant, working together, coexisting. I went to Broken Hills in 2187. I needed to be somewhere that felt like purpose, somewhere that wasn't just waiting to die. The town was built around a uranium mine, and the labor was shared equally between humans, mutants, and ghouls. We worked side by side. We built homes. We established trade routes. We created something that looked almost like civilization. But underneath the surface, we all knew. We all felt it. We were temporary, a generation without descendants, the last of our kind. The humans in Broken Hills were kind, mostly. They treated us as equals, as partners. But they had children. Every year, new babies were born in the human quarters. Human women would walk through town with their swollen bellies, and we'd congratulate them, genuinely happy for them, but also aware that each birth was a reminder. They had a future. We didn't. Some mutants couldn't handle it. A nightkin named Davidson went completely insane from the psychological pressure. He started hearing voices, convinced the Master was still alive, still communicating with him through the stealth boy radiation that had been scrambling his brain for decades. He led a group of similarly damaged mutants to Black Mountain and declared it a super mutant sanctuary. No humans allowed, no reminders of what we'd lost. I visited him once in 2279. I wanted to see if there was anything left of the mutant I'd known during the Unity days. There wasn't. Davidson had completely retreated into delusion. He'd built a religion around the Master's memory, treating old holotapes of Unity broadcasts like sacred scripture. He and his followers lived in the past because the present was unbearable and the future was non-existent. I didn't judge him, not really. We all found different ways to cope with the slow countdown to extinction. The years passed. Broken Hills prospered for a while, and then the uranium ran out. The mine closed. The economic foundation of the town collapsed. Humans moved away to find work elsewhere. The ghouls drifted off. The super mutants, we had nowhere else to go, so we stayed until the last building was empty, and the last human family packed their wagon and headed west. Marcus left to found Jacobstown. I didn't follow. I was tired of building things that wouldn't last, tired of pretending we were creating a future, when all we were doing was marking time until the last super mutant died of violence, or gave up and walked into the wasteland to disappear. I became a wanderer. I moved through the wastes, hiring myself out as a guard, a soldier, a problem solver. Super mutants are perfect for dangerous work. We're strong enough to handle threats that would kill humans. We're immune to radiation so we can go places humans can't. And we're cheap labor because what do we need money for? We don't have families to support. We don't have retirements to plan for. We just exist until we don't. I met others like me over the decades. Super mutants who'd given up on community, on purpose, on anything except survival. We'd share camps sometimes, trade stories, and there was always this unspoken understanding. We were ghosts, remnants of someone else's failed utopia. Living fossils wandering through a world that had moved on without us. By 2240, most of the first-generation mutants were dead or disappeared. Not from aging, we don't age the way humans do, but from violence, suicide, accidents that might not have been accidents. The wasteland is dangerous for everyone, but it's especially dangerous for people who stop caring whether they live or die. The second-generation mutants, the ones the Enclave accidentally created when they excavated Mariposa in 2236, they were worse off than us. Less intelligent, more aggressive. They didn't understand what had been lost because they'd never understood what the Unity was trying to build. They just knew they were strong and angry and sterile. They formed raiding parties, attacked settlements, gave all super mutants a bad reputation that made integration even harder. I killed some of them. Second-generation mutants causing problems in areas where I was working. It felt like putting down rabid dogs. Necessary. Sad. A reminder that the FEV was never as controlled as the Master thought it was. Mutations are unpredictable. Evolution doesn't care about our plans. The NCR expanded. The Brotherhood of Steel consolidated power. New factions emerged. And all of them had one thing in common. They were planning for futures that would outlast them. Building governments, establishing laws, creating infrastructure for children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. We had nothing to pass on except warnings. I started making these recordings around 2270. I wanted someone to know what happened, to understand that the Master wasn't a monster, not really. He was a prophet who believed he'd found the answer to humanity's oldest problem. How do you make people stop hurting each other? How do you create lasting peace? His answer was, make them all the same. Remove the differences that create conflict. Unify the species into something stronger, something better, something that could survive the wasteland and rebuild civilization without repeating the mistakes of the old world. And you know what? It would have worked. If we hadn't been sterile, it would have worked perfectly. Super mutants don't fight over resources the way humans do. We don't need much food. We don't need clean water. Radiation doesn't harm us. Disease can't touch us. We're almost impossible to kill. We could have inherited the wasteland and thrived. But nature has rules. Evolution has requirements. And one of those requirements is reproduction. A species that can't reproduce isn't a species. It's an aberration, a dead end, a mistake written in protein sequences and quadruple helix DNA. The Master saved humanity by destroying it. He unified us by making us extinct. And the truly horrifying part? Most of us went willingly. We saw the logic. We believed the vision. We trusted that strength and intelligence and immunity to radiation were more important than the ability to have children. We traded our future for perfection. And perfection, it turns out, has a shelf life. If you've ever wondered what choice you would make in a situation like this, tell me in the comments. I'll be reading them. There are maybe 200 first-generation super mutants left now. We're scattered across the wasteland, most of us living alone or in small groups. We don't have settlements anymore, don't have communities. We have territories we patrol and jobs we do and memories of a time when we thought we were building something that mattered. Marcus is still trying, still believing that super mutants and humans can coexist, that our remaining years mean something. He founded Jacobstown in the Mojave, a place where Nightkin can get treatment for their stealth boy-induced schizophrenia, where super mutants can live in peace. I respect him for it, but I can't join him. I can't spend my last decades pretending we have a future worth protecting. Some of the younger humans I meet ask me about the Unity. They've heard stories, legends. They want to know what it was like. If we really believed we were doing the right thing. If we had any doubts, I tell them the truth. We believed, completely, sincerely. The Master convinced us we were saving the world, and the evidence supported him. Humanity was tearing itself apart. The wasteland was brutal and unforgiving. War never changes, but maybe we could change what it meant to be human. Maybe we could evolve past our worst instincts. We just didn't realize that evolving past humanity meant erasing it entirely. The Master wanted to end human conflict. Mission accomplished. In a world of super mutants, there would have been no war, no tribalism, no genetic competition. We would have been unified under his telepathic guidance, working together toward common goals, free from the petty differences that had destroyed the old world. We would have been perfect. And then, in 2 or 3 centuries, we would have been extinct. The last super mutant would die alone in the wasteland, surrounded by the ruins of 2 fallen civilizations, and there would be no one left to remember what we tried to do. That's the future the Vault Dweller saved humanity from. Not death, not slavery, but a slow, inevitable fade into oblivion. A peaceful extinction dressed up as transcendence. Sometimes I wonder if they did us a favor by stopping the Master. Sometimes I think we would have been better off never knowing what we'd lost. Living out our centuries in ignorant bliss, believing we'd achieve perfection, never realizing we'd traded everything that made life worth living for a few extra decades of invulnerability. Other times, I think the Vault Dweller did exactly what they should have done. They saved their species. They preserved humanity's future, even if it meant condemning thousands of super mutants to purposeless existence. From a purely evolutionary standpoint, they made the right choice. But I was on the other side. I was Unity, and I spent my life believing I was part of something greater than myself, only to discover I was part of nothing, a biological dead end, an experiment that failed spectacularly while succeeding perfectly. The wasteland doesn't care about our tragedy. It keeps spinning. New factions rise and fall. Humans keep fighting and breeding and dying and being born. Life continues. Just not for us. We're the last generation. The final testament to what happens when you try to force evolution. When you think you can improve on billions of years of natural selection. With a virus and a vat and good intentions. The Master was brilliant, visionary, charismatic. He saw humanity's flaws with perfect clarity and designed a solution that addressed every one of them. His creation worked exactly as intended. He just forgot to check if his perfect species could continue existing after he was gone. It's 2281 now. I'm 123 years old. Though age doesn't mean much when your cells regenerate faster than they deteriorate, my body is still strong, still functional. I could probably live another 2 centuries if nothing kills me first. 200 years of watching the world move forward while I stand still. 200 years of being a relic, a monument to failure. But let me tell you what actually happened, not the history you know, where the Vault Dweller stopped the Master and saved humanity. Let me tell you about the other timeline, the one that almost was, the one the Master saw in his visions. Because I've had a long time to think about it, and I understand now what would have happened if the Unity had succeeded. Imagine the Vault Dweller never found Vault 13's location. Imagine they got killed by raiders in Junktown or never left the vault at all. Imagine the Master's plan proceeded uninterrupted. By 2165, we would have cracked every vault in California. Vault 13, Vault 15, all of them. The pure human stock would have given us tens of thousands of successful conversions. Smart super mutants, strong super mutants, the kind that could lead, could organize, could build. The NCR would have fallen, not through war but through conversion. We would have offered them a choice, the same choice we offered everyone. Join us and gain strength beyond measure. Resist and watch your children get dipped anyway. Most would have chosen to join. Humans are survivors. They adapt. They make pragmatic choices when faced with extinction. The Brotherhood of Steel would have been harder. They had technology, power armor, energy weapons, but we had numbers and we were patient. We would have laid siege to their bunkers, starved them out. Eventually, they would have emerged, and when they did, we'd have been waiting with the VATS. Within 20 years, every major settlement in the core region would have been Unity. Within 50 years, we'd have spread across the entire western seaboard. Wherever humans gathered, we would come with our offer of transformation, salvation through mutation, peace through unity, and it would have worked. For a while, maybe a century, maybe longer, the wasteland would have stabilized. Super mutants don't fight over resources. We don't have tribalism. We're stronger than any raider gang, more organized than any human settlement. Under the Master's telepathic coordination, we would have rebuilt infrastructure, restored power grids, cleared out the most dangerous mutant creatures, made the wasteland livable again. The irony is that we would have succeeded at everything the Master promised. We would have ended war. We would have created a unified civilization. We would have proven that humanity could overcome its worst instincts and work together toward common goals. And then, sometime around 2300, someone would have done the math. Some super mutant scientist, examining population data, would have noticed the pattern. No births, no children. Not in a century and a half of Unity. They'd investigate, run tests, and they'd discover what the Vault Dweller discovered in our timeline. Complete sterility, irreversible, built into the fundamental structure of our reconstructed DNA. The realization would spread slowly at first. Denial, anger, desperate attempts to find a cure. Maybe they'd try to reverse the FEV process. Maybe they'd experiment with cloning, genetic engineering, anything to preserve the species. But FEV is too thorough, too perfect. It rewrites DNA so completely that there's no going back, no workaround, no solution, and then would come the acceptance. The slow, dawning horror that an entire species had consensually voted itself out of existence. That every human who chose transformation, thinking they were joining something eternal, had actually just signed their genetic death warrant. The Master would still be alive in this timeline. His body sustained by FEV, his mind linked to the cathedral's computer network, immortal and unchangeable. He would have to watch his perfect creation realize it was doomed. He would have to guide a civilization that had no future. He would have to be the shepherd leading his flock toward oblivion while pretending. There was still hope. I think that might have broken him worse than the Vault Dweller ever could. Because here's what would happen next. The Unity, faced with extinction, would have to decide how to spend its remaining centuries. And super mutants, for all our improvements, are still shaped by the humans we used to be. We still have egos, ambitions, fears. The telepathic link the Master provided gave us unity, but it didn't erase individuality completely. Some would argue for making the remaining time meaningful, building monuments, recording knowledge, leaving something behind for whatever species inherits the Earth after we're gone. They'd focus on purpose, legacy, making the extinction mean something. Others would descend into hedonism, If there's no future, why not enjoy the present? Why not indulge every impulse, take every risk, experience everything possible before the final darkness? They'd become reckless, dangerous, a threat to whatever human settlements still existed in remote areas, and some would grow angry, bitter. They'd blame the master for lying to them, for hiding the sterility, for sacrificing their futures on the altar of his vision. They'd rebel, fight, try to tear down the civilization we'd built, because if they couldn't have a future, why should anyone else? The master would hold it together as long as he could. His telepathic presence would smooth over conflicts, redirect anger, maintain order. But telepathy isn't mind control. He could influence, suggest, guide, but he couldn't force. And as the decades passed and the population started declining, as super mutants died in accidents and violence and suicide, as the settlements grew quieter and emptier, even his influence would weaken. By 2400, maybe half the super mutant population would be gone. The ones who couldn't handle the psychological weight of extinction. The ones who sought death as release. The ones who just got careless because survival loses its urgency when there's no tomorrow to survive for. By 2500, it would be worse. Communities would collapse as populations dropped below sustainable levels. The elaborate civilization we'd built would start breaking down. Power grids would fail for lack of maintenance workers. Roads would crumble. Buildings would decay. Not from age. Super mutants live long enough to maintain infrastructure, but from apathy. From the slow realization that there's no point in fixing something that outlasts you, the master would still be alive. Locked in the cathedral, linked to systems that had kept him functioning for centuries, unable to die even if he wanted to. He'd watch his children disappear one by one, feel their minds wink out across his telepathic network, count down the remaining members of his species like a father watching his children die of a disease he gave them. By 2600, there might be a few hundred super mutants left, scattered across the wasteland, most living alone, some still clinging to old Unity settlements. They'd be maintaining the machines out of habit more than purpose, going through the motions of civilization even though civilization requires a civilization to civilize, and somewhere around 2700, the last super mutant would die. Maybe they'd die fighting, maybe they'd die working, maybe they'd just decide they were done and walk into the glowing sea to dissolve in radiation that can't harm them but can still make them feel something. The master would know. He'd feel that final mind disappear from the network. The last spark of his great experiment extinguished. And then he'd be alone, truly completely alone, a god without worshippers, a prophet without followers, an architect of a civilization that built itself and then quietly dismantled itself and left no trace except ruins and recordings. Would he finally let himself die then? Or would he continue existing, immortal and purposeless? The last consciousness aware of what the Unity had been. The last mind that remembered the dream. I think about that version of the master sometimes. The one who got everything he wanted and lost everything that mattered. I think about whether his existence in that timeline would be worse than the suicide he chose in ours. At least in our timeline, he died believing his plan could have worked if he'd just known about the sterility sooner. He died with uncertainty, with the possibility that maybe, somehow, there could have been a solution. In the other timeline, he'd lived long enough to know there was never a solution, that his perfect species was perfectly doomed from the moment the first human was dipped. That peace through unity was just another word for extinction with extra steps. The wasteland would continue without us. Humans would slowly recolonize the areas Unity had controlled. They'd find our settlements empty, our technology abandoned, our records detailing the rise and fall of a civilization that lasted 5 centuries and ended in silence. Maybe they'd learn from it. Maybe they'd see the danger of trying to force evolution, of thinking you can improve on nature through artificial means. Maybe the Unity's extinction would serve as a warning to future generations about the cost of genetic tampering. Or maybe they'd repeat the same mistakes. Humans are good at that, finding new ways to hurt themselves while believing they're achieving transcendence. The Institute in the Commonwealth is already playing with FEV, creating new generations of super mutants without learning from the Master's failure. The Enclave tried to use FEV as a weapon of genocide. Everyone who finds the virus thinks they can control it, use it, make it serve their purposes. No one wants to accept that some doors shouldn't be opened, that some knowledge costs more than it's worth. That perfection is often just another word for extinction. I've lived through both timelines in my mind, the one where we lost and humanity survived, the one where we won and everyone lost, and I can't decide which is worse, being defeated and scattered and purposeless, or being victorious and unified and still facing extinction. At least in our timeline, we knew quickly. The Master died in 2162. We learned about the sterility the same year. We had immediate confirmation that the unity was doomed. It was brutal, but it was fast. We didn't spend centuries building toward a future that didn't exist. In the other timeline, we would have had time, decades, maybe centuries of false hope before the truth became undeniable. Generations of super mutants who grew up believing they were the future of humanity, only to discover they were the end of it. Which is crueler? Quick death or slow realization? Immediate failure or drawn-out success that still ends in extinction? I've been recording these tapes and hiding them across the wasteland for years now, leaving testimony for whoever finds them, because I need someone to know that the Master wasn't evil. He was wrong, catastrophically wrong, but he was trying to solve a real problem. Humanity was destroying itself. The wasteland was proof of that. The Great War proved that. The constant faction conflicts proved that. He just chose the wrong solution. He saw that humans couldn't stop fighting each other and decided the problem was humans, that we needed to be replaced, upgraded, transformed into something that could overcome our tribal instincts and work together. But those instincts exist for a reason. Competition drives innovation. Diversity creates resilience. Conflict, for all its ugliness, forces adaptation. By removing all the things that made humanity messy and difficult, the Master also removed everything that made humanity survivable. We became perfect. And perfection doesn't evolve, doesn't adapt, doesn't change. It just exists in its perfect state until something breaks it. And then it shatters completely because perfection has no redundancy, no backup plan, no genetic diversity to draw from when circumstances change. Humanity survives because it's flawed, because people make bad choices and fight stupid wars and pass on broken genes and adapt anyway. Super mutants can't adapt. We're locked into the form the FEV gave us. We can't change, can't grow, can't become something else when the world requires it. The Master made us eternal and changeless. And in a universe that rewards change and punishes stasis, that was a death sentence. I'm not recording these tapes because I want sympathy. I'm recording them because I want understanding. I want whoever finds them to know that the unity was both the best and worst thing that could have happened to humanity. Best because it solved every problem the Master identified. Worst because it revealed that solving those problems meant eliminating the species we were trying to save. There's a lesson in here somewhere about the danger of forced evolution, about the cost of trying to perfect something that works specifically because it's imperfect, about the hubris of thinking we can improve on billions of years of trial and error with a virus and good intentions. But I don't know if anyone will learn it. Humans keep making the same mistakes, keep thinking they can control forces they don't understand, keep believing that this time will be different. This time we'll get it right. This time the benefits will outweigh the costs. They won't. They never do. But we keep trying anyway because hope is more powerful than evidence. Because belief is more seductive than reality. Because the promise of transcendence will always be more appealing than the hard work of incremental improvement. The Master promised us perfection. He delivered extinction, and thousands of us thanked him for it. That's the real tragedy of the unity. Not that it failed, not that the Vault Dweller stopped it, but that it would have failed anyway. That even if everything had gone perfectly according to plan, we still would have ended up here, sterile, dying, watching humanity inherit the future we thought we'd claimed. The Master wanted to save humanity from itself. Instead, he showed us exactly how humanity saves itself. By being flawed, by being messy, by reproducing and dying and passing on genetic material that's never quite perfect, but always adaptable. We were the Master's children, his creation, his legacy. And our legacy is a warning written in chromosomes and abandoned settlements. Don't try to perfect humanity. Don't try to eliminate conflict by eliminating difference. Don't trade your future for strength, because strength without continuity is just temporary. And perfection without reproduction is just extinction in slow motion. I'm old now. Not in body, my super mutant physiology keeps me young, but in mind, in spirit. I've seen too much, lived too long, watched too many dreams die. The unity is gone. The Master is gone. Most of the first-generation mutants are gone. Soon, I'll be gone too, and when I am, there will be fewer voices left to tell this story, fewer witnesses to what almost was, fewer reminders that humanity's greatest threat isn't always monsters and raiders and nuclear fire. Sometimes it's visionaries, prophets, people who see our flaws so clearly They decide we need to be erased and replaced with something better. The Master saw what was wrong with humanity. He just forgot to see what was right with it. Forgot that our ability to reproduce, to pass on genetic information, to create next generations that build on what came before, that's not a bug in the human condition. It's the feature that makes everything else possible. We gave up that feature for perfection, and now we're paying the price, slowly, inevitably, one dead super mutant at a time. If you're listening to this, you're probably human. You're probably wondering if the Vault Dweller did the right thing by stopping the Master. You're probably trying to decide if the Unity was salvation or damnation. I can't answer that for you. I've spent decades trying to answer it for myself, and I still don't know. All I know is that the Master's vision was beautiful and terrible and completely, utterly doomed. That we believed in it anyway. That we would believe in it again if given the choice. Because that's what makes us dangerous. Super mutants and humans both. We want to believe. We want to think there's a solution. We want someone to tell us they've figured it out. That they know how to fix everything. That all we have to do is trust them and follow their plan. The Master had a plan. The Unity believed in it. And we're all paying the price for that belief with every day we continue existing in a world that's moved on without us. So here's my final confession. My last testimony from the wasteland. The Master was right about humanity's problems. He was right that we're tribal and violent and self-destructive. He was right that the old world ended because we couldn't overcome our differences. But he was wrong about the solution. Dead wrong. And that wrongness killed more thoroughly than any nuclear weapon ever could. Because nuclear weapons destroy bodies, the Unity destroyed futures. And somewhere in that distinction lies everything you need to know about the cost of forced evolution. The Master wanted unity. He got extinction, and in the end, those turned out to be the same thing.